techniques to make the best chocolate chip cookies. I'm sure that you or someone you know has made chocolate chip cookies more times than you can count, but here's what you'll need to know to make these delectable cookies. There are hundreds of different recipes to make chocolate chip cookies, but this one in particular is the best one I've found so far. So by learning this new one, you can then share it with your friends and family. Not only are these a sweet gesture to show someone you're thinking of them, but they are also great for parents with young children to bring to school for holidays or birthday parties. It's safe to say that I've made these cookies countless times since quarantine has started, and they have been a hit with anyone who has tried them every single time. I've made other chocolate chip cookie recipes before, but no other recipe compares to this one. These cookies remind me of the ones my grandmother used to make for me when I was younger, which must be why I like the recipe so much. Making chocolate chip cookies is made easy with this simple yet delicious recipe. They'll definitely knock your socks off. I'm going to be explaining to you what quality ingredients and measurements are needed, the proper tools required, the correct techniques to use, and how to bake the cookies in the oven. Each of these steps are an important part of making these cookies perfectly. But before we get started, you'll want to gather these quality ingredients. The star of the show in this recipe is definitely the chocolate chips, so you'll only want the best of the best. Ghirardelli is a personal favorite of mine, so I always stick with those. For measurements, you want to use 1.5 cups. Grass-fed unsalted butter is next on the list. The brand doesn't matter, but you'll want to make sure that it's unsalted, because it's overall healthier for you and makes these cookies taste better. Be sure to soften the butter at room temperature before use. You're going to need 8 tablespoons, which is equal to 1 full stick. A helpful trick that I learned is that if you are in a time crunch and don't have room temperature butter on hand, you can take a hot boiling water, pour it into a tall glass cup, let it sit for a minute, and then pour it out. Flip the cup over and put it on top of the butter, let that sit for a couple more minutes, and then you have room temperature butter. Next, you're going to need 100% real vanilla. Don't skimp out, buy the best stuff on the shelf because you can definitely taste the difference. You'll need 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Then 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. You'll then add 1 heaping teaspoon of baking soda. You'll want to make sure that it's heaping because the last time I made these cookies and leveled out the teaspoon, the cookies didn't come out the way they had previously. A pinch of sea salt, approximately half a teaspoon, and lastly, 2 cups of packed light brown sugar. Skipping this next step can be critical when making these cookies. You'll want to make sure that you have all of the proper tools. A KitchenAid stand mixer is highly suggested because without this, the cookie's consistency will be all wrong. Before I had a mixer, I used to mix all these ingredients by hand with a spoon, which is tough to get everything mixed together thoroughly. In my opinion, the mixer is a total game changer. A cookie scoop is also suggested, just so that each dough ball is the same size and shape. A scoop is overall easier and faster to use compared to your hands or a spoon. Lastly, a standard sized cookie pan is needed, 9 by 13, and parchment paper should be used to ensure that your cookies don't stick to the pan. Now that you have all the necessary tools, you can begin by making these cookies and practicing the correct techniques. One technique that I never stray from is to follow the directions precisely. If you don't follow each direction to a T, your cookies will not turn out. In a medium bowl, you're going to whisk together the flour, baking soda, and salt, then set that aside. Next, you're going to beat the butter and sugar in the mixer on a medium-high speed until light and fluffy, which is around 2 to 3 minutes. Then add in the eggs and beat until beaten. And then the last wet ingredient is the vanilla. Add it in and mix until thoroughly blended. After blended, turn the mixer on low speed and slowly add in the flour until all mixed in. Lastly, you're going to add in the chocolate chips and beat on high for about 5 seconds to thoroughly and quickly mix in the chips. Another technique that I find helpful is chilling the batter in between batches. This keeps the dough from getting warm and runny, and it also makes it easier to scoop the dough onto the pan. It also makes for a great treat to sneak while you're waiting for your cookies to bake. Technique is an important part in making these cookies correctly, but baking them in the oven is the most critical part of all. You'll need to preheat your standard oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature ensures that your cookies cook properly for the allotted time. The final step is to bake until lightly brown on top. Bake for 10 to 11 minutes, then allow for cooling time, which is approximately 1 hour. But in reality, who can wait that long? Because these cookies are even better straight out of the oven. Making chocolate chip cookies has been made easy by following this simple recipe. Hopefully your cookies turn out amazing and you learn the importance of quality ingredients, the proper tools to use, the correct techniques to practice, and how to bake these chocolate chip cookies in the oven. So if you have a sweet tooth and want the perfect fix, I would definitely consider writing down this delicious recipe. It will satisfy your cookie craving and leave you and anyone else who tries them wanting more.